Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's story still begins in a very gentle way, without major events, without dramatic situations, yet it carries a feeling that is very real, very close, just like the simple rhythm of life that Tien and Jack go through day by day. A day that seems nothing special, but is enough to clearly see how every small detail in their lives is being nurtured, preserved, and continues to flow slowly, yet never meaninglessly. The morning begins, not with the loud ringing of an alarm clock, not with a rush of busyness, but with a familiar rhythm, almost a routine repeated every day, yet never making anyone feel bored. Tien steps out into the garden. She doesn't say much, just a slow glance sweeping across each row of plants as a way to check, to feel, to make sure everything is still all right. The tomato beds have reached harvest time. They are not large fruits, not perfectly plump like those in stores, but they carry a very unique charm, a rustic beauty, unpretentious, and because of that, they feel more real, more relatable.
Tử Tiên bends down.
Her hands gently touch each branch, as if afraid of hurting what she has cared for over time. She picks each fruit, not fast, not rushed. Every movement is slow, steady, like a habit deeply rooted in her daily rhythm. The ones that are just ripe, she picks. The ones still green, she leaves behind. She doesn't try to harvest everything, not because she wants more, but because she understands everything needs the right time. The small basket gradually fills up, not overflowing, but enough. Enough to bring to the market, enough to start a working day, and enough to sustain their lives in the simplest way. Each tomato in the basket is not just a product, not just something to trade, but a reflection of days of care, of mornings spent watering, of moments picking off damaged leaves, of quiet time unseen by anyone. And because of that, that basket of tomatoes holds more than just value as goods. It carries many things hard to name. It carries effort, hope, and the belief that as long as one keeps going, there will eventually be results. Bringing the tomatoes to the market, Tien begins her day of selling, like any other day. No big stall, no flashy sign, no attention-grabbing calls, just a familiar small corner,
A basket.
and neatly arranged tomatoes. She sits down, starting with simple words, not polished, not persuasive, just honest. These tomatoes are homegrown, no chemicals, so they're a bit small. No need to say more, no need for long explanations, because that sincerity speaks for everything. People pass by, some stop, some just glance and walk away. Some bend down, pick up a tomato, ask for the price. Some bargain, some hesitate. Questions, reactions, not always the same, but Tien keeps her attitude gentle, no pressure.
No names.
No rush to sell at all costs. Sometimes she keeps the price. Sometimes she lowers it a little. At times, just to sell faster, she accepts selling cheaper than usual. Not because she can't calculate, not because she doesn't understand the value of her work, but because she understands one thing very clearly: keeping a customer coming back next time is more important than earning a little extra now. Maintaining trust is more valuable than arguing over small amounts. And because of that, those who have bought before gradually become regular customers. No need to call them, no need to remind them. They come back on their own, not because it's the cheapest, but because they believe. They trust how these tomatoes are grown. They trust the person sitting in front of them. Time passes, not fast, not slow. Just little by little, the basket becomes emptier. From full to halfway, then just a few left. The sunlight grows stronger. The market atmosphere changes. People come, people go. But for Tien, everything keeps the same rhythm until the last tomatoes are sold. She lets out a soft breath, not a tired sigh, but a sense of relief hard to describe. A morning has passed completely. Nothing too big, nothing too special, yet enough to make one feel at ease. She gathers the small bills, not much, but enough to continue. Each note, each coin, carefully put away. not to count how much she earned today, but to make sure tomorrow can begin again like today. On the way home, she stops to buy a little food for the cat. A small action, but it clearly shows how she lives. Not only caring for herself, not only thinking about work, but also saving a small part for simple everyday things. And then, she prepares to head back. The familiar road, still the same as always. Nothing has changed, and because of that, it feels so familiar that no thought is needed. A day of work closes in a simple way. No special ending, no big mark, just a cycle, continuing from yesterday and preparing for tomorrow. And perhaps it is these kinds of days that truly shape the life of Tien and Jack. Not noisy, not outstanding, but steady, and always moving forward in their own quiet way. But somewhere else, on the same day, under the same sky, Jack's life was moving in a completely different direction. No longer the slow pace of the garden, no longer the gentle movements of picking tomatoes one by one, but a different space, a different kind of pressure, and a feeling that couldn't always be put into words. Jack walked into a meeting with a partner, carrying with him a carefully prepared set of documents. Not something done hastily, not something put together just for show, but every detail had been reviewed over and over again. Every number, every plan, every proposal, all calculated with care. No room for carelessness, no room for mistakes, because he understood opportunities don't come often, and when they do, they need to be seized as firmly as possible. He sat down.
Maintenir la calme attitude.
Not overly tense, but not careless either. In his eyes, there was focus, there was seriousness, and there was also hope, not too obvious but still present. Jack was not lacking in ability, nor in experience, and certainly not in effort. What he brought was not empty talk, but an entire process of preparation. Days of thinking, nights of calculating, countless revisions of even the smallest details. But there was one thing that was beyond his control. It was how others saw him from the very first moment. The motorbike he arrived on was not new, not eye-catching, just a means of transportation. The clothes he wore, neat, clean, but simple.
No extravagance.
No standout features. And more than anything, there was the fatigue. Even though he tried to hide it, it was still there. Long days of worry, unspoken pressure, all had left their marks. Not obvious, but enough for others to notice. The partner looked at him. Just a brief glance. Not long, not too obvious, but enough to say a lot. No need for words, no need for direct comments. That look said everything. A judgment, made instantly. A doubt, formed without verification. And somewhere within it, a subtle sense of dismissal, but not hard to recognize. They didn't really examine the documents, didn't pause long enough to read each section, didn't ask deeply about the details Jack had prepared. Everything moved quickly, like a procedure to be completed, not a real exchange. Not because the documents lacked value, not because the plan wasn't feasible, but simply because, in their eyes, someone like Jack wasn't enough to deserve their time, wasn't enough for them to place their trust in. And sometimes, just an initial impression like that is enough to decide everything. The meeting ended without a clear rejection, without a definitive statement, but also without any sign of opportunity. Everything stopped in a halfway state. Jack stood up, gathered his documents, said little, showed nothing too obvious. Just a silence, very light, but lingering. He left, stepping out of that space, carrying a feeling hard to describe. Not a complete failure, because nothing had been confirmed, but not a success either, because no doors had truly opened. Just an emptiness, a pause, where everything seemed to stop midway. On the way back, he didn't think too much, but he didn't think nothing either. Thoughts came, then drifted away, unclear, but enough for him to realize one thing, that sometimes, in this life, true value is not always immediately seen, that there are moments When people judge someone, and if those outer things are not impressive enough, then the values within can easily be overlooked. By the afternoon, life shifted direction again. No longer the space of that meeting, no longer those evaluating looks, but a return, a connection between two people used to going through everything together. Tien and Jack met again. No need for an appointment, no need for anything special, just meeting as something natural. No need to say much, no need to recount every detail of the day. No one asked, and no one rushed to answer. Just a glance was enough to understand. A look, a slight nod, a silence that wasn't heavy, all carried understanding. They went together to look at a piece of land. Not a fixed decision, just a step, a consideration. The place was quiet, near a river, not noisy, not crowded. There was a small house, a garden space, enough room to start something. Not too big, but not too small, not perfect, but it felt close, familiar. They walked around, observing every corner, not rushing, not judging too quickly, just looking, then exchanging a few gentle words. This place could work, but we should think more about it. No immediate decision.
No rules.
Because they understood, a choice like this is not just about the present, but something that will affect the days ahead, affect how they will continue to live, continue to work, continue to walk together. On the way back, they stopped by the market, not to buy anything special, not to prepare for anything big, just familiar things, enough to cook a meal, a little meat, some vegetables, a few seasonings, everything simple, just like the way they lived. But those very things brought a warm feeling, not because of the value of the food, but because of the meaning of preparing it together. Back home, no need to say who does what, no need to assign tasks. Jack lit the fire.
Tử Tiên pick get về get ben.
Each person doing their part, naturally, like a long-formed habit. The meat was seasoned, placed on the fire. The sizzling sound rose. The aroma slowly spread, blending into the quiet of the evening.
Tử Tiên boiled water.
Prepared the small things. Jack mixed the dipping sauce, adjusted the coals. Small details, very ordinary, yet they made everything feel complete. No need for complexity, no need for perfection. Just enough was already enough. They sat down to eat together. They didn't talk about the meeting, didn't mention those judging looks, didn't bring up what hadn't been achieved. Not because it didn't matter, but because sometimes it doesn't need to be said. Just being together, just sharing a meal, was enough to ease everything. And perhaps, after a day like that, what remains is not the result of the morning, not the outcome of the meeting, but the feeling that no matter how things turn out, they are still there, together, in a simple way, yet a steady one. Perhaps, if seen from the outside, if their life were placed next to familiar standards, then that life might not be what many would call the best. There isn't abundance. There aren't luxurious conditions. There isn't anything that makes others admire in amazement. Everything is still just enough. Sometimes even not truly complete, but within those very ordinary moments, in an evening with nothing special, in a simple meal, in a quiet space without anything remarkable, neither of them feels a sense of lack. Not because they fail to recognize reality, not because they don't know there are many things they still don't have, but because in that very moment, there is something present, something that cannot be measured by money, cannot be compared by material things, yet is enough to fill everything. That is, they still have each other. After everything, after facing the judgmental looks of others, after meetings that didn't bring the expected results, after days of repetitive work, days where everything happens quietly, without recognition, without praise, after choices still left unfinished, decisions yet to be made, paths still under consideration, they still choose to continue. Not because they don't feel tired, not because they have never hesitated, but because, through all of that, they have never had to walk alone. There is someone beside them, No need to do anything extraordinary. No need to solve every problem. Just being there at the right moment is already enough. Maybe not spoken, but always understood. Maybe not clearly shown, but always felt. And that presence, that feeling of not being alone, becomes the reason they keep going. Not because everything becomes easier, not because difficulties disappear, but because even when challenges remain, they no longer have to face them alone. And perhaps, in this life, among the many things people keep searching for, among goals, desires, things everyone believes are important, the most precious thing is not that everything goes smoothly, not that the road is always flat, not that there are no challenges, but that when things are still difficult, when challenges have not yet ended, when the road ahead is still unclear, there is still someone willing to walk beside you, not leaving you behind, not turning in another direction, not walking away when things become harder, but staying, continuing, and moving forward together. The story of Tien and Jack may not be a particularly extraordinary one. There are no shocking twists, no dramatic turning points that change everything, nothing that leaves people in awe, but it is real. Real in every small moment, real in every simple action, real in the way they face life each day. A story that is not far away, not difficult to encounter, yet not everyone easily recognizes it. A story that can make people pause, reflect, and look back at themselves, to ask, among the things they have, what truly matters, to wonder, among the things they pursue, what might be forgotten, and to question whether there is someone truly by their side, in the way Tien and Jack have been. And you, when you look at their journey, what do you feel? Do you see it as a simple life, or a perseverance worthy of respect? In the days to come, when new challenges continue to appear, when difficulties do not stop, will they be able to maintain this steadiness? Or will there be unexpected turns, events, choices that change everything? The answer may still lie ahead, and that journey is not over yet. Let's continue to watch in the next episode.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang bị dị ứng, xong cái mặt bên này của mình nó bị sưng lên này mọi người. Hồi sáng nó sưng quá trời sưng, mình phải uống thuốc và mình cũng không có làm việc được luôn. Bây giờ mình nghỉ ngơi một thời gian thì nó mới đỡ sưng hơn, mình uống thuốc nó ngấm mà mình đỡ sưng hơn thì bây giờ mình mới làm việc này. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều vì đã theo dõi kênh của mình nhé. Bây giờ thì mình đang làm việc, mình đang edit video chưa có xong. Khi mà mình xong thì mình sẽ đăng tải video này thì mình lên vào tối nay ngày 6 tháng 4 về câu chuyện của Tiểu San. Thì xin lỗi mọi người, về câu chuyện của Tử Tiên thì mọi người cũng đã biết rồi đấy. Thì Tử Tiên cũng đang hỗ trợ Jack trong việc khi Jack gặp khó khăn về kinh tế, và cả hai đang dự định là sẽ bán căn nhà hiện tại đi mua một nơi ở xa để có thể có tiền để vượt qua khó khăn lần này, khi dự án của Jack liên tục gặp phải những khó khăn và không mong muốn điều đó. Những mọi chuyện tiếp theo sẽ ra sao, hãy đón xem kênh của mình để biết thêm chi tiết nhé mọi người. Tạm biệt mọi người.